What's up, guys? Today I got my boy Snipe in the chair. This is a haircut he showed me that he wanted, and this is the haircut that I gave him. If you guys could for me, please go smash that subscribe button, press the notification bell, and keep up with me, keep up with these haircuts. Today I'm going to show you guys how I break down my famous low skin fades. This is a perfect haircut for a low skin fade. He's got a curly top, which he didn't want too much off of the curls. He just wanted to take a lot of that frizz and the dead ends. For this type of haircut, at first, for any curl cut, anybody who has curls, I tend to use my scissors. I like cutting curls with scissors. I feel like it's easier for me, keeps the curls looking more natural. It's easier to just take away these dead ends, and you'll see I'm almost shaping up the curls as if I would an afro, kind of just taking them dead ends and giving it a nice round shape. So I'm just lightening up the foundation there by scissor over combing up through the foundation, which if you watched any of my fade videos, you know that is the section all the way around the parietal ridge. Our foundation for this cut, any low skin fade, has to stay low and drop around the nape of the head, which is that area in the back of his head where I'm scissor cutting around there. I'm just making sure everything is nice and smooth throughout the foundation by scissor over combing through, and then just trimming up these curls. Any extra bulky curls you see there, I'll just run through with my scissors and pull the curl out. Now once I'm done cleaning up the curls up top, I'm gonna grab my Andis Masters and I'm gonna put a 2-guard on there. With the 2-guard, I'm just flicking up through that bulk section that his old barber would tend to leave. Right here you can see I'm flicking right through that section with the 2 all the way open, and then I'm going to take my 2-guard and I'm going to turn the clipper around and brush down through that line to level it all down and blend that into the top. We're now creating the foundation, which is going to have a drop in the back, and we're blending that into the top through the foundation, all with the 2-guard going up and then down. Once that's done, we'll set our skin line in here, and make sure to set your skin lines in there nice and tight around the ear. That skin line should wrap right around the ear and go directly down towards the back of the neck. This is crucial for all low skin fades. You want the skin section to be as low as possible. Now that the skin section's set in there with that skin line, I'm going to take my Andis Masters again and I'm going to take the clip off. With no guard on there, I'm going to open it up and set that fade section in. If you guys have watched any of my fade videos, you'll know these are the 2 sections I set to complete a fade. The entire fade section, and what I believe to be the most important, is them bottom 2 sections, where the fade section blends into the skin and up into our foundation. Now, since I have my Andis Masters open, no guard, I automatically just set that guideline into the beard. Since the clippers are in my hand, I'm just going to do that. Now I'm going to complete my 2 sections around the back of the head. So now you can see my sections are set in there perfectly even all the way through. Before I start erasing that bottom line, before I start erasing that midline going into the foundation, I'm going to complete them sections around the back of the head. So now I know my fade is going to be perfectly even all the way throughout the haircut, from one side around the back to the other side. This is crucial. This is why I set these guidelines in. You know, even if you know where each guard is supposed to be used, these guidelines will always make sure that you know your fade is even from one side wrapping around all the way to the other. You don't want one side of the head looking different than the other. The goal is to have the fade looking equally blended all the way through from one side to the other. Now I'm going to start erasing that bottom line. I've switched from my Andis Masters with the cord to my cordless Andis Masters. Here I have a fade blade on. This blade has a very thin blade on there that cuts extremely close and allows me to get that bottom skin line out with ease. Now remember guys, this is why we set these sections up like this. You have an entire fade section going around the head with the foundation section right above it. That line in between is the line where you don't go past if you're fading through that fade section. You're gonna fade through that fade section with the fade blade, because you know that that fade blade cuts closer than the regular Andis blade on your corded clipper. Just keep flicking gently throughout that section, and when that whole section becomes lighter, close the lever, notch that lever a little bit closer, and flick through that section again, but don't flick through as much. Keep repeating that step until you have your blade completely closed with the fade blade, and you are scooping up, tapping that bottom line that we created with our trimmers. That will erase the bottom line completely, and your whole fade section will be blended into the skin. Seeing that it's such a tight fade, that fade section isn't too wide, the fade blade helps me immensely. I faded that bottom line out, and I've completed my 2 sections around the other side. You can see here perfectly, I did not make a huge section for the fade section. I'm fading tight. So I know that the fade section is not wide. I do not have a lot of room to push the fade up with my fade blade. You see me flicking that mid line going through the foundation into the 2 with the 2 guard. I flicked that line so many times to make sure that everything is perfectly even and level. So now I'm left with 2 lines over here. The skin line that's going to be faded with my fade blade, and that mid line. You see me here brushing through it with the 2 guard, and I'm just wrapping around the back of the head, making sure that that 2 section is nice and even all the way around the back of the head, because from that 2 guard down, I'm going to be fading with my 1 and my 0 guard on the Andis Masters. Them 2 guards alone are going to get rid of that last line going all the way through the middle of the head. Now you can see on the beard, same thing. 2 lines to fade. 1 line, I'm starting to fade out with the 2 guard. Same thing as I do on the sides of the head, all the way around the head. The second line, as you can see right here, I'm using my Andis Masters to flick that line out into the skin, and now I'm left with my last line. I throw on my 1 guard here to get rid of that last line in the beard. If that line doesn't disappear, sometimes I'll use my 0 guard, but in this case, I didn't even need to switch to my 0 guard. I simply just removed the 1 guard and open my masters all the way up. After I fade that last line in the beard out, I'm just gonna shape his beard by trimming all the dead ends. Same thing as I did for the top of his curls. I'm really just trimming all the dead ends. I really like the darkness and fullness his hair and his beard had, so I'm not gonna do too much there. I'm not gonna try to take that down too low. Just trim the ends and give it a nice shape. For that last line, I'm going to take my 1 guard, and as always, when attacking any line, start with it open and flick as much as possible. Flick as hard and emphasize that flick as much as possible. Try to graze through the line, pulling away. The more you do this, the more faded the line is going to be naturally. You see, I did a little bit of a little section of the fade with the 1, and then I popped that guard off and I grabbed my 0 guard. I did this so that you guys can see that 1 guard is not going to erase that line. You see here, it actually created a second line underneath of it that you have to then fade with your 0 guard. You see me flick it with the 0 guard, and now you see me with my clipper, no guard on there, all the way open, tapping that same line. But you see, I'm never going into the next section. I'm never taking that higher than it needs to be. As I start flicking that line lower and lower, my flicks become shorter and shorter. If I have to, I'll use the corner of my blade. Like right here, I'm really just using the corner of my blade to dig through there and split up grains. Now, going through the fade with the 1, you see I'm just flicking that same line with the 1 open, then I'm gonna flick with it closed, going a little lower, and that's what you're left with here. See, I got the 1 guard on there closed, and I'm trying to flick this bottom line out, but it's not going nowhere. That's because that line is not going to be erased with the 1 guard. This is where a lot of people have trouble. You see here, I've hit this same line with the 1 open so many times, but I'm not, in my head, I'm not trying to erase that line completely. I'm just trying to make sure that everything above that line is blending into the next section completely. Now remember, around this nape right here where I'm flicking with the one open, that line did not disappear by flicking with the one guard. Now I'm back with my 0 guard, shorter, smaller flicks, just tapping away at that last line that the one created. This is all very tedious, but if you manage to keep your lines close, keep these sections close and don't dig deep. Flick and graze these lines as much as possible. I got my Andis Masters all the way open, no guard, and I'm just blending that very last line all the way through. I'm switching guards from the 0 guard to no guard with it all the way open. Then maybe I might have to come back and tap a little bit above that with the 1. The whole point of this is to just be tedious and careful. That's really the biggest advice I can give you guys when doing these low skin fades. Now, before I go and really clean up throughout the foundation, I'm going to go back with my trimmers and make sure that that skin line is completely gone. You want to make sure that skin line and everywhere throughout that fade section going into the skin is nice and blurry. No bulky spots, no dots that are too close together. When you start cutting hair down short, they become stubbles. To me, I look at them as dots. So you don't want it to be dotted up too much, too close together when you get down to the bottom where it's supposed to blend and scatter into the skin. So that's why I say this section is the most important. After you've got that all blurry down into the fade, into the skin, I'm gonna come back and refine any lines that I see throughout the foundation with my clipper over comb technique. I've got a small comb here because it's a very small section with short hair, and I'm just clipper over combing, and even right here you can see I'm freehanding along the side of the head going into the top through the foundation. You see there's really just that little bit of bulk where I said earlier his barber would normally tend to leave. You see why. If you're not good at clipper over combing and really using the corner of your clipper like I am here, it's very hard to get these small dark spots out and to break up the gradient in there to make it blend better. So right here, I'm literally just splitting the grains in them little dark spots right around where the bulky area would be and just making sure it all blends nice. Now I always take a step back and look at my fade before I do my shape up. Once I start throwing my lines in, I start noticing little bits of detail, like right here how I'm just flicking that bottom line with my sharp trimmers. These trimmers I use for shaping up, so they're a little bit sharper. They're a little more 0 gapped than my other trimmers that I would use to set my skin line. But I'm starting my shape up around the C cup. As always, I start that first line right around the temple area so that I know that's not going to be pushed back further up, and then I start another line over on the sideburn there so that I know how wide my sideburns are going to be when I connect that C cup into the sideburns. You can see just a perfect C cup shapes up perfectly right into the sideburns, and you can really see the gradient pop once you throw this line in there. Once you throw your shape up line in, you'll see any bit of detail you need to put in your fade. Any dark spots within the fade, anywhere on that bottom skin line that wasn't flicked out enough, you will see. Like right here, I could see it in the video that I'm watching now. I could see them little dots at the bottom that just needed to be broken up. You will typically tend to find a few more around the ear where you kept that line real tight to the ear. That's why I keep the skin line as tight to around the top of the ear as possible. That little bit of detail, I can do this at the end. I don't get stuck up on it throughout the fade. I just know that's where my skin line is, so that's where I'm going to be flicking up at the end to really detail it. Now I sped through these steps on the other side of the fade because this is a very detailed skin fade video. I'm just gonna speed through this. One guard to flick that middle line out, start open, then close it, get that line all flicked out, and then take your fade blade and start fading that bottom line out into the skin. Once that's all faded out, fade out your beard. Make sure them lines are all nice and clean, blurry, no lines going horizontally through your fade. Make sure this is a nice, clean, smooth gradient. I'm gonna make sure that around the back of the nape, it blends in nicely around the back, connecting both sides into the back of the nape. I'm gonna be switching back and forth from my 1 and my 2 guard, just making sure that all blends in nicely. And then I even used my Babyliss clippers to add a little bit of detail into the fade and make sure that blend is nice and smooth. Once I'm done my blend completely all the way around, I pick my scissors back up and I'm just gonna completely clean up and trim anything that I didn't get up top. Make sure that all this hair is nice and clean. You can see at this angle, the other side of the fade is done and the beard is completely faded out. And them curls are starting to lock back up just naturally because they've just been sitting throughout the whole haircut. And when I do that last round of trim around the whole top with my scissors, I'm freehanding around the head, but I'm not combing it out like I did at first. When I first started the haircut, I combed the hair out. I combed all his curls out. The last time I scissor cut around, I do not comb it out. I just simply scissor cut, freehanding all around the curls, cutting it down to the desired length, trimming them down, and then I finish up my shape ups, my C cups, everything's looking nice and sharp. And then mid-cut, Snipe and Rob got in a heated discussion about religion.
That you have, I got the same shit, bro.
No.
You think
it's false, but it's not.
Hope you
Bro,
say some energy for tomorrow.
Actually do research.
Like, look, that's how you know you're a bot, bro. Because I'm telling you that I have what you look. Camera, I'm telling him what I have, and he's telling me, no, that's not true. But I'm literally telling him that I have it, and he doesn't believe. You know what I'm saying? It's no, like, I'm telling him what I had. He doesn't believe me.
No, look, chicks. Let me tell you something.
I don't know.
Temple! Oh my gosh, I just watched all that. Yo, he's on 11. Fucking 12. Yo, he's undefeated. Undefeatable.
Fuck!
What's
I'm about
the-
to smack all these niggas, bro.
I just want to say thank you to Rob, Snipe, and Smooth for one great night and another great experience doing this whole YouTube thing and just cutting hair. Cutting hair really has brought some of the best times, greatest laughs, and introduced me to some of the best friends that I have today. So anyone out there that's looking into getting into this, into cutting hair, I highly recommend you do it. So I finished up this haircut with the straight razor. I'm not really much to straight razor, seeing that he just has the C cups and his beard line. And this is the finished cut, guys. My famous low skin fade. This is what I'm most famous for. Almost all my clients want a low skin fade. I do this cut a lot, so I hope you guys enjoyed, maybe learned a little bit. If you guys have any questions, anything that I didn't get into enough detail with, or anything you would like me to get more into detail with, please comment below. Let me know. If you look here, I'm really just adding more detail with my trimmers and my razor, tightening up everything, trimming any loose hairs on the beard. As you can see, it all flows. It all has a nice shape. The beard matches the hair. The hair suits his head shape. The low skin fade is just the perfect cut for this client, seeing how his head is shaped around the back with the nape there. This all just flows perfectly. This whole haircut came out great in my opinion, and again, thank you Snipe, thank you Smooth for introducing me to Snipe, and thank you Rob for popping up randomly and just causing a hilarious great night. Guys, if you could for me, please on your way out, hit that subscribe button, press the notification bell, and like I said, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of this video, anything I'm missing or anything you want to see. Let me know below. I will more than willingly comment back and we can talk, and you will see me in the next tutorial. Peace.